Oh, look at that
Stack
fat
ones.
stack.
But
It's so loaded.
one of these things. Maybe you can see that's a.
Oh, dude.
That's not bad at all. I haven't seen that. Hey everybody, welcome to Old Fashioned Catholics. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are Catholics who like to drink old fashions. We film very late at night. If this is your first time tuning in, we always film very late at night. It's 10:45 after we have gotten all of our family members to sleep. And then we get together. We have found that our show is best enjoyed if you're sipping on something, right, Kevin?
That's right. If you'd like, we'll give you a chance to pause it. You can grab a beverage, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. It is your choice. We will put what we are drinking as well as our guest, who we'll introduce in a moment, up on the screen now.
Welcome back. Okay, so just a quick introduction. So we have on the show tonight Giancarlo Bernini. We met, I think, back in April of 2021. It was 2021, right?
About right, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. We were down in Evansville, Indiana, who has us, or has me there anyway. Repeat, like they kind of own half my soul now. And be careful because they will own you as well soon. But we just happened to be at the same event, and we were talking backstage, and kind of started to talk about what we'll talk about tonight. So I'm trying to think if there's, why don't we ask the two questions and then we'll kind of get into who you are.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Giancarlo. It's great to have you on Old Fashioned Catholics. As soon as Nick told me, I was extremely excited because I watch a lot of professional magicians, and I just, there's a spoiler. Well, there already was a spoiler. People saw the beginning, but it's just awesome to meet someone who shares our faith and is striving for excellence in this so awesome of an art. So welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So I guess before we get into it, Kevin, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, fellas, I am it's more important what I'm eating right before the show started. I don't normally eat on the show, but I decided to rip out some homemade bulgogi. Which is Korean barbecue beef and is good. And I was looking for soju to go with it, which is Korean rice liquor, but they didn't have it, so I had to go across the sea to Japan and get some sake.
Sake?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, this is hakutsuru sake.
Oh, it sounds so insulting. Just the way you said it, not the actual word.
Yeah.
Not.
Like I'm yelling at you.
I'm offending
Hakutsuru.
you, not the Japanese, right? Yep.
Right.
Yep. Tonight I just went really simple. I don't know. I'm just bourbon and bitters. So I got the Evan Williams again, and then I put 2 ounces of bourbon and 6 shots of bitters, and that's just what I'm sipping. So, and I see, what are you drinking there tonight?
Giancarlo, what do you got?
I've actually got a 0 sugar root beer. So it has no sugar and no caffeine, which are the 2 reasons you drink soda. So I don't know why I'm drinking this.
That's good. It's good.
It's
but
okay.
It like
In
root beer,
about 3 more years, you will be old enough to purchase alcohol, and it'd be great.
Give it time, man. Give it time. Okay, so then, so we got the, what are you drinking? Oh, then the only other scripted question we ever ask the guests is just in all honesty, straight up, we mean it. How was your day today?
Day was exciting and stressful together.
Okay.
Together as one unit.
So
do we unpack or do we?
Yeah, unpack it. Why?
So today was the day that we also announced that I'm going on my first tour as a magician. So like I'm going to a bunch of major cities in the US, and I've never done that. And I don't have an agent or a manager or a producer. I just put my credit card down all these venues across the country that I know I have friends in. I texted a bunch of friends and I'm like, hey, if I did a show in your city, would you show up and bring friends? And they said yes. And I said, okay. And then I booked all these venues. And then I just went on Facebook and said, hey, I'm doing a tour, buy tickets. And I just been sitting in my computer just watching whether ticket sales are coming in or not. It's been going well.
You can go to berninimagic.com.
Yep, berninimagic.com/tour right there.
Tour.
Whoa, you're doing it, man. You just went and just said, I'm gonna tour and have I just respect.
Do it.
That's
Well, I didn't
awesome.
have shows in October, and so I was like, I didn't have anything scheduled for October because everyone's still kind of like not sure about like things coming back or not. So I'm like, look, we'll play it by ear. We'll figure out what's going on in every location. But if these locations will have a show, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna do a show.
That's awesome. That's cool, man. Well, I know we've already talked about Minnesota. If whenever your dates are, we're gonna get you a show somehow. So that'll be cool.
For sure, it'll be fun.
Yeah. So it was exciting
100%.
and stressful, though, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the stress part. Obviously, is the excitement, but not knowing whether how it's gonna pan out. You know, because at the end of the day, I've got 10 friends who say they're gonna buy tickets. Are they gonna tell their friends? Are there gonna be more people who buy, or is it like, am I? At the end of the day, the way I was thinking about it is, even if I lose overall, if I don't break even, if I lose $200 on this whole tour, I got a lot of social media buzz. I got a lot of promotion. That's $200 I spent on advertising. Really, is what that is.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like you going all out and doing this tour, if you only lose $200, to me that feels like a win.
That's a success. Yeah. Because I mean, at best, you'll get to hang out with 10 different people, which is a really good thing.
Yes.
You'll have to put up with my family at some point and probably Kevin's. So that'll be good. So the thing about Kevin, now that you know him, he's kind of stuck in your life. So
Yeah, you can't get rid of me now.
nope.
I'll follow you.
I'm good with that.
So how on hook are you for these venues? Did you basically put all this money down and you're like, hey, either people are gonna show up or I'm gonna be paying?
Yeah, so I can get a 50% deposit back, and I had a few friends buy tickets before I announced the tour, and I told them, hey, if we don't sell enough, I'll refund your tickets. I was a little smart about it. I was a little safe, but not to the degree that, like, it's still terrifying. I would still lose some money, but it won't, like, I'm making sure I'm not gonna, like, I'm gonna be okay.
You didn't put 10,000 down on like the 50 to 1 odds horse.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm gonna be okay. It would kind of suck, but I'm gonna be okay.
Well, so how, like, if you had to like put a number, how many people do you need to get at each venue to have it just be all right, to be a good show?
Yeah.
I mean, I can do a show for 20 people.
Okay.
Like, if you can get even 10, 12, 15 people in a room, I can do a show. That's like in terms of like having a good enough audience to where the show feels like a good, energetic, fun show. You can get at least 10, 12, 15 people in a room. That's enough. I can work with that crowd. Financially, in terms of the financial side of things, it just varies depending on the location.
Okay.
Some venues were given, there's like 2 venues that are being given to us for free. Mainly restaurants who are assuming that people are going to buy drink, or one of them's at a brewery in Denver. So people are going to buy drinks. So they're letting us use the space for free. So things like that. But it just depends. I've got the venue here in Austin, because I lived in Austin 4 years. We've got like 70 seats available. If 70 people want to come see the show, we've got 70 seats available. Philadelphia, I've never been to Philadelphia. I know 3 people in Philadelphia. The venue sits 15 people.
Okay, nice.
And that's the max capacity of that venue, because I mean that's what's going on there.
I don't know anybody there.
I don't know anybody there. If I can get 15 people, I'm going to be really excited.
No, are some of these okay? So I haven't talked about that in years, but I used to do magic a bunch. And one of my close friends at the time was the head tech director for one of the top 3 magicians kind of ever, or in the world anyway. Andre Cole. We've talked about this. He was the head guy for Andre Cole, and Andre Cole is like, he created tricks that Copperfield purchased from him. Like, he was just the man. He was amazing. So anyway, my friend called me one night and we lived in Minneapolis, and he was just like, hey, I want to take you to a show. And it was, so there's this magic shop in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then you go in the magic shop, and then you go through this curtain in the back, and you go upstairs, and there's just a little room with a small little stage, some folding chairs, and it's just all magicians. And I can't remember his first name. His last name is New. I think it's just NU. Okay. I looked him up recently. I think he's still doing stuff. But anyway,
that actually sounds familiar too. I feel like I would know him. If you said the name, I would know him.
Yeah, you would know him. I meant to get the name before we started the show. But I just remember being mesmerized because it had the whole feel. Like you showed up at night, everybody's kind of quiet. You go through this curtain and you're upstairs and no one, like you didn't even know this thing was there. And he just did this amazing, most of it was coin. And it was euphoric how good he was. Like how, there'd be nothing and then there'd be this huge coin. And it was just amazing. I just remember thinking like, I felt privileged to be like at that. And so are there any venues like that you're booking that are kind of like, they're not like known, but you could get them booked. They're in like a back room or they're kind of secretive like that or not so much?
Well, yeah, because the thing is, my whole thing with this whole thing has been outside the box thinking. So none of these are, well, actually, no, there's a couple of legitimate theaters, but a lot of these are like, let's find a place that you normally wouldn't expect to see a magic show at and turn it into a magic like theater venue. And that's part of the whole process. It's like, you're getting an address to a place. And like I said, one of them is a brewery, but it's not going to look like a brewery when you get there. When you get there, we're going to have turned it into a little magic theater in that room.
Sure.
So it's that whole aspect. I'm a big fan of like that Willy Wonka feel of like, you go into the little room and like, you can't find the door. And then you turn around and when you go out the door, you came in, you're in a completely different place. And just that kind of feel is what I'm trying to create in every time I set up an environment.
Well, and I'm sure Kevin, I'm sure we could find a really unique venue in Duluth to have a bunch of our cohorts show up.
We will.
Something.
Oh, we will. We'll pack that. We'll pack that house.
Let's go,
man.
But I don't want to interrupt.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your appearance that you did on Penn and Teller. Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2019, June 17, 2019.
So some people consider making it onto that show kind of like the break. Would you say as much, or was it not so much that for you? What was your experience like on that show trying to fool those guys? I
kind of see it as that in the sense of, on one end, that's being on that show is what gave me the confidence to go full time. Like the fact that because that was my senior year of college. So senior year of college, and I was making that decision of when I graduate, do I just go full time into magic? And we filmed senior year. The episode aired at the end of like a few weeks after my graduation. And that's when I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. This is my thing. So in terms of my personal confidence, yes. And at the same time, of course, like whenever people like are trying to book someone, if it's between me and a couple other magicians and my website says as seen on Fool Us, like that adds credibility, right?
Yeah.
No, your phone doesn't start ringing when you're on the show. Like it was not like my episode aired and people start going like, hey, we want to see, we want to book the magician that we saw last time. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But people who are interested in maybe booking you, the odds that they will book you are a lot higher if you have that accolade that you've been on the show. In like
60 seconds, how did you get on there? How was the process of getting on to that show?
Yeah. That's a great question. And there's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is I sent in an audition video and they liked it. And that was it. Right. Like that's the short answer. And one of my favorite things to say is like really big things that like seem impossible, rely on a lot of outside factors, but if you just focus on the parts that rely on you, sometimes it's just not that much. Like getting on Fool Us, like relies on these producers really liking my act and it seems like this big thing. But in terms of like, what did I have to do? I had to film myself doing a trick and that was it. Right. But of course there was a lot of development. So there's a company called the Magic Firm. They're magic consultants.
Sure.
And so they, kind of like a business. I mean, you probably know this. Kevin, you might know this as well. There's, but a lot of people don't realize that magicians work with, there's these people called magic consultants and their whole job is to make magic tricks better. Yeah. So I had an idea. I pitched something to Fool Us one year. It was a mentalism trick. They didn't like it because mentalism isn't visual on television. So then, but I didn't understand that at the time. So I talked to the magic firm and I was like, hey, why didn't my trick make it? Can we fix this? Can we make it better? And he goes, no, you need a completely different trick. Like this just isn't going to work. So he's like, send me all the tricks that you've done. And I sent him a list of all the tricks that I do in my show. And he goes, try this thing with the time machine, but we're going to need to completely revamp it. Right now it's a 12-minute routine with multiple callbacks. You're going to need to make it as tight scripted as 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And so we've spent months getting into that. Then we filmed it. Then we sent it in.
Wow.
So you actually did the trick that you sent in. They basically wanted that trick. The
yes.
time machine. Yeah, okay.
They wanted so the original mentalism trick, they said no. The next year, I fought him on it. I said, because I really like that mentalism trick. It's a good trick. It's a good trick. And I told him I wanted to. He's like, no, do the time machine thing. That's gonna get you on the show. And I fought him on it. He goes, fine, send them both. So I sent them both. And I sent the email with both. I said, here's the trick called the mentalism. And they're like, here's the thing I do with the time machine, like underneath. And then they come back and like, we love the time machine. I'm like, okay.
So the mentalism trick that you do, is that something that's doable tonight on the show, or is that like not as accessible?
Not as accessible because I need you in the room with me to do it.
Okay.
But
okay, with that,
if you come see the tour,
oh, I'll be there.
Oh, I'll be there too. It's on.
But so do you do that one on the tour then?
Yes, depends on the audience, depends on the size.
Okay.
It's interchangeable. There's one trick of the fourth or fifth trick in the show that depending on the audience size, I either do a bigger thing or a smaller thing.
Okay. Well, with that said, just because we have the time and we're not shutting down. We're doing this late. Do you have? I'm going to make you do a couple of tricks tonight. Is there one that you? I mean, obviously we had that one at the beginning, the teaser.
Totally.
But do you have a trick that you could do now just to show us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll show you how I practice because a lot of people want to know how magicians sometimes practice.
Oh, actually, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just a little inside scoop into magic. So magicians practice with the aces. So this is a ace of spades, and actually have multiple aces. Now you might consider this cheating, but this is actually what we do in order to make sure that basically we can always identify the aces, because you always want to keep track of where the aces are. So check this out. If I take an ace face up and an ace face down, take an ace face up and an ace face down, I'm gonna leave those on the table. Watch what I do with the rest of these aces. It's actually kind of interesting. The first thing that I'm going to teach you how to do is how to manipulate cards. So if I take a face down ace and put it on top of this pile right here, give it a snap, you can actually get every single ace to check that out. Turn face down, just like that. Nice. You saw a face up ace in there just a second ago.
Yeah.
But watch, if you take that face up ace and turn it down just like this, give it a snap, get every ace to go back to being face up.
Nice.
Take the face down ace on top. Again, you can keep doing this. This is all manipulation. It's all card manipulation. This is all sleight of hand. This is just face down aces. Or you can take the face up ace on top and you can get all of them to go back to being face up. Now, the other thing you can actually do is you can take one of the face up aces on the pile and turn them face down, and then you can get them all to end up face down again. Or you can take two of the face down aces and give them a shake, and you can actually get one of the aces to appear face up in the middle and get you down there. Now, that is manipulation. What I also wanted to show you was how we switch cards sometimes. So sometimes if we have extra cards we want to switch in. So for example, I don't know if you noticed when I switched in the blue aces, that's card switching. And then of course, at the end of the day, you don't want people to realize you're playing with all aces. So that's why I brought the royal flush. And so that's what we use in a real trick. So that's just a little bit of an insight into how magicians practice their sleights.
So good. I feel insightful now.
Yes, I just learned a ton about how to do that.
Yeah, I think when we get done, we'll be able to do that just immediately.
Yeah, it was like a tutorial basically.
But
so the first, I always loved. I don't know. I can't speak for girls, but I know that guys like that. Even as a young kid, you're like, I don't know, magic just has this thing. Like,
I need to ask both of you about that.
Okay, so for me, and I know it was way earlier. I remember I had a full coloring book sized magic act that you could do, and I did it for my neighbor's kid in my bedroom once when I had to have been like 9. And it was just, I remember things like, you had to, it was things like, you had to be ready when they walked in. You're laying there under a blanket with your feet up, poking out, and then you float straight up, and then you float down, and you're like, okay, you need to leave for a second, and then they'd leave the room, and then so I remember doing that. But the first like strong memory I have of magic, and there was a ton in between, but the first thing that stands out, and I even I had Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller. He retweeted one of my articles once because I remember they did an episode, and I linked it in the thing, but they did an episode where they were like showing people how tricks were done, but they were obviously not showing how tricks were. But
Like
they did
Giancarlo just did.
Yeah, like Giancarlo just did. But it was and you might know it, Giancarlo, or you might know it, Kevin too. But and I can't remember the name of it. It's old. It'd be on VHS now. But they're like appearing in different parts. Their faces are appearing in different parts of this whole like facade.
Like a set from like a scene.
Yes, yes.
from the
Wait,
scene.
this is the blast off illusion?
Yes, blast off.
Blast
Yep.
off.
That's the first thing. And I remember going like,
Mhm.
because even as watching it, I'm like, okay, they're showing me. That's amazing.
Right.
That's not how they did it, but that's amazing that they thought up another way to show me how to do it. I just remember thinking like, holy crap, like this is so fun and intricate. So then for you, actually, let's build. Kevin, what's the first magic memory you have? I don't know where you are.
Well, I think it was when I was at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival.
Ooh.
And I was at one of the main stages, and there was a magician there. You know, there's tons of magicians there. And then there's also like, you know, comedy magicians and acrobats and stuff. But this one magician ended up calling me out of the audience of hundreds of people to come up on stage. And so I'm embarrassed. I must have been 8 or 9. And he wanted to do a hypnotism trick. And so he pretends to hypnotize me. And then he goes, see, you're hypnotized. Everyone else is going to see what's actually going on, but because you're hypnotized, you can't see it. So he kept crumpling up napkins and putting them in his hand and counting to 3 and having me wave my hand, and then they were gone. And every time he was doing it, the crowd was laughing harder and harder and harder till finally he points behind me to show me that he had just been throwing them over my head.
Awesome.
And that's when it just like clicked, and I was like, man, that was really cool. Like he got me so good, and I wasn't embarrassed anymore. But that just stuck with me. And it's so much so that I wanted to get into magic. My parents knew it. So my mom went to the St. Paul Magic store and got like the most expensive, nice, like card magic book. It was so nice. It was like the one that the guys at the store said, if he wants to get into card magic, this is the book.
It's also probably the most expensive book they had.
Yeah.
Probably was. And it was
coincidentally.
It was the absolute wrong book for me.
Yeah.
Because I had nobody to show me or teach me. I got through like a chapter and I gave up. Do you
remember what it was?
It was like all in black and white, and it was tons of theory.
It was Tarbell's, right?
I don't know.
It was either Tarbell or expert at the card. If it was all card magic, it might have been expert at the card table.
Okay.
But anyways, it petered out, and it's too bad because like my mom recognized its desire in me, got me this book, but we had no idea like what I should have been learning first, and that was not it. So that was it.
Well,
I still love it. I still love magic.
That's speaking of the Renaissance Fair, like the fact that that's a rough gig. I don't know, Giancarlo, if you've ever done one, but like I've
never done one, but I've seen.
There's people walking by eating turkey legs and just yelling, and they're drunk, and like there's so much going on, and still like these magicians, they do really well. Like they're and the Minnesota Renaissance Fair is awesome. But they're super impressive. But anyway, okay, so Giancarlo, when was your first that you remember? Like what was the first impacting thing you remember?
So that's an interesting question for me because I was in love with magic before I knew what magic tricks were. And what I mean by that is that when I watched movies as a kid and I watched Aladdin and I watched The Sword in the Stone, I would always identify with the genie and Merlin and all these magical sidekicks. I would never identify with the main character. I always wanted to be the magical sidekick. And that was just always been my life. And then I remember when I saw Mickey Mouse put the wizard hat on in Fantasia and making the broomsticks dance. I would pretend to do it with him, like as I'd watch him. That was always me. And then, in 3rd grade, my dad shows me a card trick. We're outside my grandpa's backyard. My dad finds a deck of cards in grandpa's house, comes outside. He goes, let me show you a trick that my dad showed me. My grandpa had shown him. And he does a trick with making the 4 aces appear on top of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And then he teaches it to me. And I go and I show it to my cousins and they all freak out. And I'm like, oh, and then you got to do the thing where you keep doing it like, and then they kind of either figure it out or they get bored and you're like, well, I need to learn another one now. And so my dad didn't have another one, but I started like looking into magic books and getting magic kits and, it just kind of snowballed. Every 10-year-old gets into magic at some point. Like we've talked about, every 10-year-old gets to magic set. Every 10-year-old gets to magic at some point. you either grow out of it or you don't. And there's a very few of us that just don't grow out of it. And
Yeah. Or you
that
flunk
was
out
me.
of it like someone like me.
No, it's so
Well,
funny. So the other day, we had a birthday party for all our kids, just because we have too many kids to have a birthday party for each one. And so I went to the dollar store, and so we were playing bingo, and I needed prizes. So I went to the dollar store. I'm just raking stuff into the cart, and in the toy section, there were 3 different boxes of $1 magic tricks, and it's got I got this for the kids. The whole like there's no coin, and then you put it on or whatever, and you weigh over the thing, and there's suddenly a coin there or whatever, and it's plastic and it doesn't fit well. But my 10-year-old has been obsessed since, like has been like we've been watching all these the cups and balls. We watch all this stuff online because, like you said, like there's just this fascination, and they're about 10 years old. They're like, okay, I think it's amazing. I want to do it though. Like I want to know, like, and not just to know it, but like to conquer it. Like I want to do that same thing. So when did it switch for you from, that one card trick your dad taught you to be in something more?
I think it became apparent when, and I mean, a big part of like why I get into it is as a kid, I had a very hard time like making friends and socializing. So magic was a good icebreaker. Magic was a good way. And almost, 90% of magicians you talk to are going to say that they had a similar story.
Sure.
Magic is a way, is kind of a crutch to help you socialize as a kid, when you have a hard time making friends. And that was true for me. The switch for me happened, I think, when I went to, so my dad works at a children's cancer clinic, and I would go during the summers. He was like, hey, do you want to come and do magic for the kids there while they're in the lobby waiting to get called in? And I went. And at first I saw it kind of like as a way to practice, or a way to like kind of get like as an opportunity to like perform in front of, an audience that wasn't family. And very quickly I realized like it hit me like there's something about magic in a situation that can bring someone joy, and it stops kind of being, and I'm not realizing it in these terms at the moment, but I'm realizing that it could just be, hey, look at this cool thing I can do, or there could be another route of doing magic for the sake of bringing someone joy who needs it in that moment. And that's the moment that at least I recognize that was an avenue. And I feel like a lot of the people who grow out of it, they just maybe never had the experience of, this is something of understanding what magic could do aside from being able to say, hey, look at this cool thing I can do. And that's when like we talk about it in our faith all the time about being part of something bigger than yourself. And I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't have the words for it. I was a little kid, but I felt that.
Sure. That's amazing actually to think about. Instead of you would always assume, okay, going onto a cancer ward where they already have it and they're whatever, that's one thing you hear about that. But to be in the waiting room, because everybody's been in a waiting room where you don't know what's going on and you're nervous about what's going on, and for you to be there just kind of like bringing them out of that into like some other sense of wonder, that's amazing. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah, the waiting room is the worst part.
Do you remember what's the first, I guess, a big trick? I don't know if it's a trick. I was conditioned to say illusion because
they're illusions, Michael.
The magicians I was around were they're like, it's not a trick. Okay, it's an illusion. So, but I've noticed
there's no room for that kind of pretentiousness in magic.
Okay, good. So the first trick that was like that was real, that you're like, okay,
yes,
like I'm in. What would that have been?
That's the trick that you saw me do. So you're talking about like the first trick that I'm like, wow, like this is a thing, like this fools people.
And I know the answer, but you should.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So this is there's a trick that I did at my family's Christmas party one time. The first time I ever did it, and the reason I did it was I got a magic set, and my family said, "Oh, you got a magic set? Like, why don't you put on a little show for us?" And I hadn't had time to learn those tricks, but I had a magic book that I'd gotten a couple of maybe years before that I had brought with me. So I'm looking through trying to find old things that I'd already learned. I was in 7th grade at the time, and there's a trick involving an orange, and I just run to the fridge, and I'm like, are there any oranges in this fridge? And there is. And so I do this trick where I guess I'm gonna spoil it, but
you don't want to.
Yeah, should we? I mean, I can say what happens, but
you can say what you're comfortable with.
let's say something magical happens inside of the orange, and the orange does a magical thing. I just I
You
don't
ruined
like
it,
I don't like
Giancarlo.
ruining it. I don't like talking about. No, I really
Then
don't
fine.
like talking about
Okay,
it because
then don't.
That description was perfect.
That was
it is. But let me. I have a feeling that what I just said, whatever whoever's watching it, whatever you're imagining in your head is probably more magical than what actually happened.
Well,
Something happened inside the orange and it was magical.
that's just too vague to be palatable. We
Wait,
can't.
and then ellipsis. Like then what? So something magical happened inside the
And
orange.
then my cousin comes up afterwards. He's an adult. I'm in 7th grade. He's already an adult. And he comes up and he goes, all your other tricks. I'm like, cool. You got those out of a magic set. I can figure those out. That last thing you did, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's the best.
And I could see it. Like I could see it in his eyes. This little 7th grader just blew my mind. And that feels weird to me. And I felt weird. I'm like, you're an adult. Like you should not be impressed by anything I do. But that moment, I go that's the first time that I felt like I created a really magical moment for someone. And I do that trick. And the reason I don't want to talk about it is because I do that trick in my show. That is the finale of my show. It's still the finale of my show.
And it's perfect. I was in the back with just an ear to ear grin at how well you did the trick and your own like take on it, but just be like how it fit and how impacting it was. So yeah, don't say anything more about it. One thing
There's something.
Oh,
go ahead.
Then no, you go. Nope. You go first.
Nope, I refuse.
No, for real. Mine fits later.
I'm turning down my mic.
Mine fits later though. Mine isn't. Yours is pertinent to right now. Mine I've been waiting to say for a long time.
I feel like Kevin was just trying to make a joke that he feels is just weird to bring up at this point after we've talked about it enough.
Okay. Are you gonna do? If I do mine, will you do yours, Kevin? Okay. You're still muted, so I can't hear you say yeah. But okay. No, it was just if you've ever heard J.J. Abrams, the show Lost for me was super impact. I loved Lost. I love that show. And there's people criticize a bunch of stuff, but they were wrong because it's wonderful. There was a dip, but anyway. So anyway, J.J. Abrams, I remember seeing
wrong like the way Nick says the word wrong.
I said it right, didn't I?
No, you never say it right.
I just said it the way you want me to say it, didn't I?
There was definitely a ng at the end.
I told myself I would never do it again. Anyway, wrong.
I didn't know there was a. Okay.
Because in an episode I said wrong, and then he has not let it go. You got to move past it, man. Anyway,
like a hard G at the end.
Yeah, wrong.
It's a hard G, man. It just doesn't go.
Okay. So J.J. Abrams in an interview was talking about how he wrote the show Lost, and he said he grew up in New York in I don't know, one of the boroughs. And he said when he was a kid, when he was 10 years old, his grandpa went to a magic shop and he bought him the mystery box. And it was labeled as $50 of magic for $10. And so his grandpa bought him a $10 box and it had a huge question mark on it. And he turned around and he picked it up and he said, it's right here. He said, from when I was 10 years old to now, I've never opened it. And it always sits in my office because I know whatever's inside the box is not nearly as good as what might be inside the box. And so that's how he wrote his episodes and he actually has an episode called The Mystery Box. And, but like the show Lost did that in a unique way because every episode ended with you going, what? Okay. And your mind is like engaged, trying to figure out. And I think that's what magic does is just, go ahead.
No, Nick, I don't know if you know this, but that company that sells those mystery magic boxes is Tannen's Magic Shop. And
no way.
Yeah, and they're still selling them, and now they sell the J.J. Abrams mystery box.
Oh my god!
It's a J.J. Abrams mystery box.
Ah, come on,
dude!
It's a whole thing now.
Well, there's probably nothing in it except for a ruined Star Wars.
Wow.
No, okay. So then, shoot. Okay, so we had your first one. So then what? Then what after that? Like, how did this progress? So you had this.
I want to hear about the studies in. Did you get a degree in theology? What is your degree in?
Religious studies. From UT Austin.
So UT Austin religious studies. That's not a Catholic specific degree, is it?
No, and they're UT is a secular school, so it was basically a social studies approach to world religion, essentially, is what is.
Oh,
Are
sweet.
you still a Christian?
Yeah, did you find the right one?
Yeah. No, I took it mainly because I wanted to be able to have actual dialogue with people. Apologetics is a huge part of my conversion story. Like apologetics was like foundational for me, and so I found myself in situations where someone comes up and says, "Well, what about this?" And I wanted to be able to I wanted to be able to talk about religion. I wanted to be able to understand how to talk about religion from a secular perspective, so that I could share ideas logically, without being, without any kind of discernible bias, if that makes sense. I didn't want people to say like, "Oh, well, you're just saying that because you're a Christian." I can say, "No, I'm saying that because here are my sources." That I wanted to be able to have that.
Mm. And you said your conversion, were you raised Catholic?
So raised Catholic, but I didn't really understand my faith. I did the whole like, kind of like cradle Catholic, but never really understand. I went through Sunday school, didn't really, did my first communion, didn't really understand that. I always joke that my, I didn't. No one ever told me that the Eucharist was actually the literal body and blood of Jesus. I always thought it was just a symbol until I was like 18, like that I found out. And I was like, why didn't anyone tell me this? I've been Catholic for 18 years, and I'm finding this out now. And they're like, you took like a year's worth of Sunday school leading up to your first communion. Like, were you like not listening? Like, so I don't know.
It's because
But
the whole model is screwy and
Yeah.
not meant to work. And
Right.
so when it doesn't work on a second grader, we shouldn't be surprised.
Right.
right. Wasn't gonna say it, but yes, it's let's blame the system, not me.
Yeah.
It's
But yeah,
the
way easier.
system.
but yeah, no, that was the whole thing. So I'm learning the theology. I'm like, this is cool, but is it real? And then the whole faith, just blind faith, just never sat well with me. I was like, if I'm gonna believe something, I want proof. And I went to summer camp. Now this wasn't a Catholic camp; it was a Protestant camp. Well, non-denom. But yeah, but the guy there who was the spiritual emphasis director, incredibly smart guy. Look up to him a ton. He knows a lot about apologetics. He introduced me to it, and he goes, he's like, well, you don't have to believe it because the Bible says it. You can believe it because of all these reasons. But by the way, you should also believe it because the Bible says it, because here's all the proof for why the Bible, like evidence for the Bible. And he just like throws all this apologetics at me. And he goes, I'm a high school kid. I'm like 15. And he goes, you should go read William Lane Craig, the apologist. He gives me like all these books. And I don't know. I don't know if you should give a 15-year-old like William Lane Craig, but I read it anyway, and I thought I understood things. I was able to talk about things I didn't understand because I could like repeat phrases, and eventually I grew into understanding them. And I really felt in love with it. And I was a really egotistical kid. I liked being able to think that I could talk about faith intelligently. That was kind of like for a little bit of youth group, I was known as the apologetics kid, the kid who like
Nice.
You go to with questions, and then like which of course meant that I didn't have an actual like emotional relationship with Jesus until college, because you can't be that kid in high school and also like be humble.
Yeah, when I was like 24, somebody mentioned Immanuel Kant, like the Critique of Pure Reason, because I was into philosophy. I thought I was into philosophy. I was into like Spark Notes philosophy. And so somebody mentioned, yeah, man, Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason was tough, man. I we would go line by line over an entire year's worth. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went and bought it thinking like, oh yeah, but I can read it. And then I got it. And then I read like, I think I made 13 pages in when I realized I didn't know like 12 of the pages, any of the words on them. And I just kind of quietly quit because the same reason, like that ego says like, I got it. And it's like, no, I don't got it. So, okay. So then what? There's a fruit fly in my house. Sorry.
Then I go to college, I joined Focus, get discipled. This guy named Anthony really pours into me. And I realized like like after like 2 years, it finally clicks that like what Catholicism like really, really is. And And because I understood the theology intellectually up until that point, like as a high school kid, but the actual like living it out and being like understanding it, emotionally feeling it, and seeking the relationship instead of just being able to talk about it. You know, the whole like Thomas Aquinas thing, like to love God is better than to know God, that whole thing, like that doesn't click till college.
Yeah. And there's a certain sense in which it can't, like even with like, your the growth and whatnot, like being able to grasp things, that makes sense. That would set in then. So
Right.
well, actually just pause then. You've been on the road a bunch. I met you, you had flown in and you were even tired then because you had been doing shows. And how has that affected as you travel? How has that affected your faith? Like, is it a good thing? Is it a detriment? Is it neutral? How's that affected your relationship with God?
Yeah, and we've talked about this a little before, but it's been a bit of it's interesting because my foundation was apologetics. Intellectually, like I can cling on to things, but emotionally, like being alone or being by myself, or when you're like on the road for days straight and you're just in airplanes and hotel rooms, I need community. I'm one of those people. We all need community, but I really need community in order to like stay grounded in my faith. I need to be surrounded by community. So I have a good Bible study now. There's a point when I was starting out because, and we've talked about this too, like I have my magic show and we talk about how I do apologetics in my show and I share the faith and I share my testimony and all that stuff in my show. And the idea of a Catholic magician isn't, it's kind of new. Not new. So St. John Bosco did it, but it's there's not a lot of people out there doing it. So when I graduated,
no, you can count them on 2 fingers.
Yeah,
right. So when it's funny because I got my Saint, that company Sock Religious that puts out those Catholic socks.
Yeah,
they just came out with St. John Bosco socks, and on the sock they have him doing a magic trick.
That's awesome.
And you better get those socks.
No, they sent me a free. They got here today. Yes, I got them today, awesome. And I'm so excited about them. I got my Bosco socks. Anyway. Side note.
So good.
Those socks make me so happy. So I graduated college, and I've been doing a bit of Catholic shows in college, like with retreats and the Catholic Center at UT. And I've had a little bit of experience doing like faith-based shows, and then people hear that I do this, and then I get invited out, and I start thinking like, well, I'm going to be a magician. Like, I'm going to, do churches and not a lot of people, no magicians out there have jumped through the hoops of getting like the letter from the pastor and EIM training and approval from the bishop and all those things. Because why would you, if like a Catholic church is going to be like maybe 2 shows that you do a year? But if it's like 30 shows I'm doing a year, then I'm going to jump through all those hoops, and then I'm going to be the only one, right, available to do it. So very quickly, I started getting asked to do all these shows. And going from being a college student to being up there with Catholic speakers, I wasn't ready for it. I mean, just to be frankly honest, I still feel like I'm not fully ready for it. But like, it was a very big jump because it was a feeling of, spiritually, I wasn't ready for it, but I was being brought in because I could do a cool card trick that no one else could do. And I was aware of that, and I could feel that. But I remember stepping on stage, and I'm like, I don't belong here. I know the only reason I'm here is because I can do a sleight of hand trick that other magicians can do, except they don't have the letter that gets them in here.
Yeah.
And I was very aware of that. And I'm still very aware of that. And I still struggle with that. But yeah, that's a very long answer to your question.
No, it's a great answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
You're allowed to struggle with that. But eventually you'll get over that struggle one or another, because the God has called you, God has called you to this unique mission, means that you just need to embrace it. And until the light turns red, it's green.
Yeah.
So if you keep getting invited and getting to share the gospel, and in such a unique way that you both talked about, where you get to suspend people's experience of reality. And what magic does for me is it leaves me going, oh my goodness, life is amazing. Life is awesome.
Yeah.
Like those thoughts go through my head, and people that I know who don't really like magic, they think it's silly, but that moment, it's not even about the magic. It's about, this is so amazing what I just got to experience. And you get to
Well-
do that, dude. And you just need to embrace the hell out of that.
Well, two things. One, first of all, if you're there, then you're there. God put you there. Like,
Right.
that's the whole Father Chiswick thing we've been talking about like almost every episode from He Leadeth Me. But just if this is the day that He made, it's His will for you. So if He put you on stage, you don't ever have to be a better speaker than anybody. You don't have to have the same testimony. He gave you this gift, and none of them do that, and He put you there. And so you should be there. Like, yeah, you're fit to be there. Yeah, you're worthy to be there because He put you there. The other thing is that, oh shoot, I lost it. Shoot, Kevin, what did you just say? No, because it was important. It was one I wanted to say from the beginning. Kevin, you just said,
When I was talking about God putting you there, and you just need to embrace it.
yeah.
That you get to not only suspend people's reality, but get people to think like life is amazing. Life is awesome.
That's what it is. Actually, years ago, our friend Kevin and I have a mutual
Keep
friend.
going. I think I hear a kid running around.
Okay. We have a mutual friend, Heather Serena, and she's like Father Mike's right-hand person. And she had said of Kevin that the world is filled with perpetual wonder for him, because Kevin is just in awe of things. But I think that's like that idea of like that childlike wonder. There's something that magic does. It doesn't matter your age. I was speaking at a Catholic college campus in a summer thing, and I was just hanging out with the leaders, just the student leaders. They were all college kids. And one of them he's a great guy. I keep in touch with him, but he was just not having it. He wasn't really like feeling the God thing or the Catholic speaker thing. He had a real, like, you could tell he just didn't care for me at all. And we were sitting in this room. We had nothing to do for hours, and there happened to be a deck of cards. And I told him, just pick a card from that deck in your brain, like name the card, and then if you hold it in your brain. And then I told him what the card was, and he like oddly was visibly moved. And later was like, yeah, I don't know, that kind of cut through everything for me. And like, the stupid trick did, like, that's dumb. Like, you mean the sacrament that you went to didn't cut through? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, there's something about it that's kind of cut through my brain, and it kind of made me think. So it's weird that like what you're called to is something that A, not many people can do, but B, that like it cuts to people in a unique way, at least when it's supposed to. I guess Kevin's not here. I was going to ask, do you have,
No, that's really helpful though. Thank you.
like, I don't think this isn't the final trick. Do you have anything else, like another trick you want to do like that, or that you could do? I don't know if you have anything lined up that you want to do, but
Totally. Yeah. We can do, so here, we'll do a little,
here, I'm going to make you the full screen here.
okay, cool. So here we'll do. Actually, I'll save this for when Kevin gets back.
Okay.
We'll do this as the final trick. Let me give you. I'll do another little little tutorial on how magic works. It's a little different this time because last time we used the 4 aces. This time I want to use, we used ace of spades. This time I want to use the 4 aces. Ace of spades, ace of clubs, ace of hearts, and ace of diamonds. You can see those there.
Okay.
And ideally, what happens is a lot of times people ask, when magicians do card tricks, do you cheat? Do you ever mark the cards? And that's how you know. And the truth is, we do. I mark cards all the time. And like, how do you mark it? Like, do you buy marked decks of cards? And the answer is no. You can actually mark them on the spot. I'm gonna show you how that works. So if you were to mark a deck of cards, where would you mark the card? Like, what part of the card would you mark it on?
I'd probably mark a corner.
Yeah, corners are great because every time you spread the cards, you can see them.
Okay.
Corners are the easiest way. Now, if you want to do something a little less subtle than a corner, still subtle though, one thing you can do is if you are with someone who has lipstick in their purse, and without being weird about it, you can ask to just rub some of it on your finger and rub it on the card. You can actually get that shade of lipstick, whatever it is, to rub onto one of the cards. I don't know if you can tell this, but this ace is just a little subtly more pink than the others. I don't know if you can tell. It's just a little more pink.
Yep.
You can tell, yeah. But you know what? What if you're in a situation where no one around you is carrying lipstick, and that you can borrow, or you don't feel comfortable asking to borrow it because that'd be weird. If you're wearing blue jeans, you can rub your hand on your blue jeans, rub it on the card, and in that case, you can actually get one of the cards to turn just a slightly shade of blue. I don't know if you can see. It's kind of subtle,
I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure. It can be subtle sometimes, but if you don't have that either, if you're in a situation where it's just you and the cards and you don't have anything on you, one thing you can do, use your fingernail and just nick the side of the card. What I mean by that is just little nick on the corner, and just takes a little bit of the corner off. So I don't know how visible that is, but there's one card there that just happens to be missing a corner.
It's quite visible.
Yeah. So that's just a little bit of a corner missing there. So that's another way you can mark a card. But you always want to have one card that's definitely not marked, because if someone says, "Hey, are you using marked cards?" you can always hand one out. So for me, that's this one. That's the Ace of Spades. The Ace of Spades is definitely not marked, because the other cards, you have this Ace of Clubs, which has a green back and a corner missing, and then you've got the Ace of Hearts with the blue back, and you've got the Ace of Diamonds, and that has the pink back. So you can't give them any of those, but you can always give them the Ace of Spades, because the Ace of Spades is definitely not marked. In fact, it'll tell you on the back. It says it's definitely not marked.
Way to go. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's a fun one.
So good. Okay, so I would say I'm trying to think. Without Kevin here, I don't want to move forward too much. Other than I would say, so how long? Or two things. One, how long do you usually spend practicing an individual trick, and what makes a trick appeal to you?
Yeah. So there's two sides of that. One is it conceptual practice, or is it concept, like, am I working on the show actively thinking about, like, would this music be better? Okay. Should I script it this way? Should I say these words instead? All that stuff is I'll just naturally get excited about it, and I'll sit down and just start working on that thing, and then I'll be like, oh, I forgot to eat and shower today. I just spent 10 hours doing this. Quarantine was rough for that too. Like, I just wake up and just like let's work on this, and then I'm like, where did they go?
That's awesome,
because I just get very excited about new ideas. But if it's like a move, like the stuff I was showing you, that's all sleight of hand. Mm-hmm. The idea there is actually I want to be able to do it without thinking about it. I want to focus on the script and the presentation and the people I'm talking to. I don't want to have to think about doing the moves. Yeah. So I practice that when I'm watching TV or when I'm talking to friends. Sometimes I'll be on Zoom calls and I have my hands under the table and I'm just doing the moves, and it's mindless. It's not like I'm distracted. It's like a fidget spinner. It's like I can just, because the idea is get to the point where I can do it without thinking about it, where it almost feels abnormal not to do it. Yeah. So yeah, that is that's kind of how I if it's I either block everything else out and focus on it, or if it's conceptual, but if it's just moves, then I do it specifically when I'm supposed to be engaged in something else mentally.
So right now, currently anyway, would you say the bulk of your bookings are church related, or what else do you do? Like, I mean, what venues do you work?
I mean, it definitely varies a lot. Most of it, I would say, is still churches. Okay. A lot of it's also corporate. So a lot of this week. This week is great. And next week is great. It's National Payroll Week, and all these payroll companies that do payroll services, whatever that is. I don't know what they do. The theme nationally for this year is payroll is magic. And so they're all like all me and my magician friends were all like, are you guys getting like a bunch of calls from payroll companies this year? Like, what's going on? And then we all found out like, oh, that's their theme this year.
That's
and like
awesome.
That makes sense. So I've got one of those next week.
So that opener that you did, turning ones into 100s,
that's gonna work well.
That's awesome. So when you do, okay, I never did anything like that, like corporate. How does that go? Is that daunting, or is it not at all? Is it just like, actually, this is cake because of the clientele?
No, it's pretty great. For me, it's easy because I don't know. I feel like it depends on the audience and the crowd. But if you're being brought in for corporate, it's kind of like, they're trying to have fun while also keeping it casual, like they're keeping it businessy.
Sure.
There's like that business casual feel, and they're trying to have like fun in a work atmosphere.
Mhm.
And so being able to be the guy, like I know that I'm coming in as something that's already out of the ordinary. So just
Sure.
the fact that I'm there already makes them more likely to want me there because they're not at work right now.
Sure. Have you ever had where, I mean, I'm sure, but when you're doing a show or a bit and you can tell like, dude, these people were forced to come to this. I don't know. Does that happen much, or is it generally a pretty open atmosphere?
It doesn't happen much. And then when it does happen, I understand that that's why I'm being brought in, right? Like
Sure.
that's the reason the client is bringing me in is because they say, hey, look, we're throwing a party. They don't even want to be there. They're we're bringing you in because maybe you can make them want to be there.
Sure.
And so then that doesn't discourage me because I'm aware that's the reason I'm there, right?
Sure.
Like that's why they brought me in. And then I just kind of take that as I mean, it's harder for sure to make them care, but at some point magic breaks you. It has to. I do this thing where I don't ask for volunteers. I just jump into the audience and point at people and tell them to come on stage.
Yeah.
And that tends to get people engaged because you
Nice.
don't really know when I'm gonna. I learned a long time ago. If I sit up there like, can I have a? That's the worst. That's when it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's when you're on stage. You're like, can I have a volunteer? And no one raises their hand.
Nobody. Yeah.
No one. And there's like 500 people, and no one raises their hand.
That's
and you're
awesome.
like, all right, I'm gonna pick someone. And
So-
and you yeah.
So personality wise, do you aim for the person that you've noticed hates being there, or do you kind of get a beat on somebody who's they're engaged, or who do you go for? Because my nature is to go, even as a speaker, like I would go for the person who hates being there in the back, who's not making eye contact. But I don't know if that works for a magic show.
Right. I'm going for that person. As in, like,
Sure.
I notice the person that's kind of not paying attention in the back, kind of folded arms. My job is to get them to freak out, but that's not by bringing them on stage.
Sure. Right.
Because I feel like if I bring them on stage, that's going to put them even more against me because
Sure.
they know I'm picking on them because of that. Like they know.
Sure.
And so, what I look for is a person who reacts really big. So I'm looking for the people who like are freaking out in the audience when I do a trick. They're smiling, they're laughing, because people live by. I can't freak out to my own tricks. That doesn't make
Sure,
sense
right,
as a
yeah.
magician, right?
Yeah.
I'm the guy doing the thing. My mind doesn't get blown. So if someone else's mind gets blown, just we empathize and we feel things. And if you see if I put this person on stage and we all watch this person freak out, we all feel it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I look for the person who is most exhibiting the reaction that I want everybody in the room to feel. And I'm
Nice.
hoping that if I bring them on stage, everyone will vicariously kind of feel that through that person. Like when
That's
she
awesome.
freaks out, they're all going to feel that too.
Do you remember a moment as a performer that was the best? Like, yep, I think that was the best show I've done so far, or that was the best moment so far. Do you have any of the, or like I guess top three, like things like that.
There was one moment recently. I was doing an event in Louisiana, and it was a brand new trick, a trick I'd never done. I had this idea. It's in the new show,
Okay.
that I'm doing. It's the new show I'm touring. I actually can't wait for you to see it. It's
I know.
a brand new trick that I kind of came up with. It didn't exist before, and I'd never done it before. Never put it in front of an audience before. And I don't know how this is gonna go. And of course I'm like, all right, it's gonna, because like with most tricks, the execution, like it starts okay, and then as you do it more, you learn like what works, how to present it, how to phrase things. But I put this trick on stage for the very first time in front of this audience, and I basically part of it is something kind of appears. I don't want to give too much away, but something happens where I open a box and you see something inside. And I felt the air just get sucked out of the room. Like it was like a collective gasp.
Uh-huh.
And then like everyone kind of gasped at the same time, But then everyone, because normally what happens is you do a trick, you go ta-da, and then everyone goes, and now we clap, and then everyone just kind of like starts clapping on cue. In this moment, everyone gasped collectively, but then everyone individually registered what happened and kind of started clapping on their own accord. So this one dude over here starts like clapping, and then this other person like kind of like really like internalized what's, and then they started clapping, and then it just kind of like you started I could hear, I was so aware of it in this moment. I could pinpoint the moment it was just hitting people, what just happened. It was just in that, and I go, this is what it is to be a magician. This is what I do. Yeah. This is what this is everything has to be this. And it kind of took me back to that moment with the orange. Yeah. But instead of me and my cousin, it was a room full of people, and they all felt it, but I saw it individually on everyone's face. And I go, awesome. That's it. I'm like, this is not only absolutely this is staying in the show, but also this is what my job is. Like, this is what I do.
That's awesome. Have you ever, so back when I was doing magic, it was in a lot of Protestant circles, and I haven't done any. Kevin, I was commenting before the show started how I didn't do anything when I met him before. As I was becoming Catholic, but I did it a lot in Protestant circles, and I got like, occasionally I would get kickback because people would think it was like demonic or spiritual. Or do you ever get anything like that in your circles where people are like, are you like connected to the spirit world, or what? Do you get that?
Honestly, not nearly as much as people. I get that question a lot. The question you just asked.
Sure.
That I get a ton. Yeah. But it doesn't actually. But do people actually? I go to church and people will come up and they'll say that. They'll say, do you ever have people who are weirded out by the magic? Right. But no, never have I actually had someone come up and be weirded out by the magic. Like that doesn't happen. But it's a thing. It's a lingering kind of thing. And it's weird because in more Protestant circles, you get the, like, I've been to a lot, and sometimes in Catholic circles, but it's mainly in the Protestant circles that you get the whole like, hey, we're gonna say like, hey, we're gonna call you an illusionist. You can always say illusion. And then there's the whole thing where the pastor comes up and he says, by the way, everything you're about to see is an illusion. Yeah. None of this is real. And I'm like, am I really that good that you have to put that disclaimer up there? Like, are people really thinking I'm that good?
Yeah, you are. But
like, is the magic that good that you have to remind them that? I'm like, that's kind of a compliment, honestly. But it's awesome. It's never been an issue. There's this video. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on YouTube, and there's this guy talking about how magicians are demons, and all magicians are doing demonic things. And he goes, we're not talking about all magic tricks, like card tricks and sleight of hand. That's one thing. And then they have these images of like, but look at what these magicians are doing. This has to be demonic because there's absolutely no way.
Right.
And then they play a clip of David Copperfield flying.
I know.
And I go, I can tell you 3 ways that works. And a simple Google search would have helped you too.
Yep.
And they're doing things that there's a point in the video. It's funny. It's like a 3.5 hour long video. And it's just this guy in a monotone voice just going through these tricks, and he goes, here's a trick that cannot be, and he's going into how not only it cannot be explained, but then what it translates into with all these very loosely tied references to scripture that actually don't exist,
right?
And like drawing connections that aren't there. And then I'm like, that's in the magic book that I got when I was like in kindergarten, like 5th grade. Like I can tell you how this works. Yeah. I can show it to you. So that's funny, but I've never had it in person. I've seen it online.
Yeah, I had it happen once when I was doing some stuff in Florida. I was levitating for a group of people, and I told them ahead of time, listen, this is a stupid trick. It's just a stupid trick, but I'm going to go off the ground now, and you're going to see it. And there's kids on the floor looking underneath, and
But I'm so jealous of you because I could never do that well.
Oh no, I don't know that I did it well, but I prepped them ahead of time. I told them like, listen, I'm going to do something that's not real, and blah blah blah. And I got done, and the leader lady, Miss May, she was like, that ain't right. And I was like, well, it's okay. Like I told you, it was a trick. Yeah, but the devil do it for real. And I remember thinking like, well, I don't even know. I did every possible. I had a friend. So my friend who taught me most of what I know, he was amazing at mentalism. Like I'd be working a shift. I worked at a group home for brain injury clients, and my fellow coworkers, my friend would call up and could tell them their life, like could tell them where they had scars, tell them their past, like all these things. But before he called up, I would say, listen, this guy it's an illusion. He's just really good at what he does. And people would say, okay, yeah, no, I'm not worried about it. And then he would do his thing. And then he would hang up after like telling them their life. He would hang up and then they'd be like, does he have like spiritual gifts, like an insight into the spirit realm? And I remember thinking like, I told you ahead of time. Like, so it's just interesting that like, I think that there is something that like in what you do, because I've seen your show and like, again, like I couldn't stop grinning. There's something that what magic does, if you do it right anyway, that connects to like a bit of the, like, it opens us up to the unknown. And so we can at least accept, I mean, we know a magic show is a magic show. But there's something that I don't know if you've thought much on that. Do you have any thoughts on that idea?
Yeah, I mean, people are scared of what they can't explain, right? Like,
Sure.
People, and so, but I also feel like your job as a magician is to, how should I put it? There's this whole thing in magic, like, should you have disclaimers, especially in mentalism? Like, should you have disclaimers? Should you tell people, hey, this is, my whole thing is, look, you don't go see Peter Pan, and then the play, and the actor doesn't come up and say, by the way, I'm not actually Peter Pan, I'm playing a character. I'm lying to you this whole time. I'm going to say lines as though I am Peter Pan. At one point, you might see me fly. I just want to make sure you know that it's important for you to not believe, because I don't think that's necessary. You know you're going to a play.
Sure.
I know. Now, street magic might be different. If you're going up to people on the street and saying, hey, let me show you this cool thing. But if you're doing a magic show and you're in a theater and you paid tickets to watch a magician,
sure,
I think there's a general understanding that you're watching a performance. And you might not understand how everything works, but you also know that's what a magic show is.
Right.
There are people who have dedicated their entire lives to making sure you can't figure out how they do what they do. So don't be surprised when you can't figure out how they do what they do.
I had a friend who he was the one who taught me everything. And he said at one point, I have people, they'll tell me like playing cards, those descended from tarot cards. So you shouldn't be using, playing cards or whatever. And he would always respond, I think that if there is a devil, he has way more important things to do than to make a cardboard, rectangle appear or disappear. I'm like, yeah, I think that again, I think that's just a misguided thought process to even think, because it's a dude. Like,
but I also say like, so because there's a line, right? There's also like for example, we talk about like making cardboard things move and whatever. It's like, I can tell you how that stuff works.
Sure.
The problem is when you're actually trying to convince someone that you do have powers, because there are people out there, not a lot, not magicians, right? But in like the magicians tend
mentalism,
to, right? And even then, like most magicians tend to be, not most, a lot of magicians are actually atheists, because what do you have? You have a bunch of people in a room who love understanding how everything works and trying to be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
You're going to have a lot of atheists because you want people who think they can explain away everything.
Yeah.
That's what a room of magicians is. Or people like me who are into apologetics. Like that's the thing. That's the dichotomy.
Yeah.
But there are people out there who use magicians' tricks to actually make you believe in these things. Yeah. And then the question becomes then, what is your intention and what is their intention? So I don't believe that there's anything inherently weird about tarot cards or a deck of cards or whatever, like in themselves. But I'm never going to use tarot cards in a show.
Right. Yeah.
Because there is, there's something like if I choose to use a deck of tarot cards in a show, because there are a lot of magic tricks you can do with tarot cards. Yeah. If I choose to use a deck of tarot cards in a show instead of a deck of cards, why am I making that choice? What am I trying to convey to the audience? Sure. What is I understand what their preconceived notions of this are, and how am I trying to exploit that, And I'm very careful of that. I'm very aware of that.
And that's the thing. I think and that was around 2001 when I was first getting really into it, when I was learning really heavily. And Jonathan Edwards was huge back then. And I don't even know him, but he would read people. He would say that he was, connecting with the spirit world, and he would have a huge audience of people, and he would, stand in front of them, and he would connect with their grandparents and their deceased loved ones. But having studied that stuff, I'm like, dude, you're doing really basic stuff, but you're pawning it off as, you're taking money from people in order to tell them that you just talked to their grandpa. And then in that, you could see, like, that's obviously crossing a line. That's obviously,
right. But there's a lot of magicians who use that. Have you seen Darren Brown do his?
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's great. Yeah.
And he's an atheist, but he has a very good. I think he has a very strong moral code on this topic, which is but it's crazy because he is so good at he's the best mentalist. I think he's the best mentalist in the world.
Yeah.
And he's from the UK. A lot of people here haven't heard of him. And
Darren Brown is amazing. Darren Brown. We'll put his link in the bio.
Darren Brown is an amazing mentalist from the UK. And the reason the magicians joke that the reason Americans don't hear about him is because he's too smart for Americans. And that's the joke, is that Darren Brown is too smart for Americans.
That's harsh.
But the man, I know, but the man is a genius, and he does the whole he does the whole thing where he brings people up on stage and he says, there are people who will try to defraud you and steal your money by claiming that they can talk to your dead grandparents. And then he goes, by the way, your grandmother's name was, and he'll say the name of the grandmother on stage. And he goes, and he'll pretend, and he'll go to sing, and she's telling me that her birthday was, and this memory, and he'll go into this whole like trance where he's almost like you're fully almost invested in the fact that this man is a psychic. Yeah. And of course the music's helping everything. And then he goes back and he goes, and now she's telling me, and of course, and then he turns to, you've seen the movie, he goes, and now your grandma's telling me, and of course she's not saying anything because she's not here and this is all fake, but she's telling me that, and he has that aside, and it's so funny because he just breaks. And he goes, of course everything's fake. And of course I'm making all this up, and there's a trick behind everything. But your grandmother is telling me that, and it's just so funny.
And the only difference is that he makes that break to make that honest moment where he identifies with the audience and reminds them, like, it's like Bertolt Brecht. I don't know. He's a playwright, a German playwright. He used to hate the willful suspension of disbelief. And so during his shows, he would, the audience didn't know it, but he would have massive blinding floodlights set up facing the audience. And he would write these amazing plays. And at like pinnacle moments of the play, he would flash blinding lights at the audience to remind them, hey, you're in a theater right now, and you're watching actors. And then he'd let the play go on. And it's almost like Darren Brown does that. Like he oh, go ahead.
No, keep going.
No, that was, go ahead.
Have you seen In and of Itself?
I don't, oh gosh.
Oh, Nick, on Hulu, In and of Itself. You have to. Like, you have to. You have to. Like, it's called In and of Itself by Derek Delgadio. It's a magic show. It's the best magic show I've ever seen in my life. Let me tell you what happened when I went to see In and of Itself.
Okay.
I go on a trip to New York. There's three things that are happening. There's three things you got to know about me. I love my Catholic faith. I love magic, and I love Harry Potter. And those are the three things that I love. In like, if you know me, those are the three things. And I went on a trip to New York, one, to visit a seminary I was interested in attending, or not a seminary, an order of priests that I was interested in joining. 2, to go see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child on Broadway, and 3, to go see In and of Itself. This was the purpose of that New York trip, was to do those three things.
No, I haven't seen it. I have it saved now.
I go. Okay, Nick, listen. You're gonna go. Everyone else watching this, just Nick, you're gonna watch this, and then we're gonna talk about this for hours.
Okay.
Because my dad and I, we sat in the audience of In and of Itself. We saw it live. Produced by Neil Patrick Harris and Stephen Colbert.
Oh my gosh.
We sat in the audience. This is the last night of our trip. It's Sunday night. My dad has work the next day. The show ends. It has the most insane ending. And we're sitting in the audience, and the lights come back on. And my dad looks at me and he goes, do you want to see this again? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, do you? And my dad's not like a big magic fan. He enjoys it, but he's not like he goes, he goes, do you want to go? Do you want to see this again? And I said, I mean, of course. And on the spot, pulls out his phone, rebooks the flights, rebooks the hotel, so that we could go back and say the show the next. He says, I'll rebook the flights to the hotel. You make sure you get tickets for the next performance tomorrow. And we went back and we saw the show again. It's the best magic show I've ever seen in my life. And there's one moment that isn't captured in the video because they filmed it and now it's on Hulu. And it's just as good watching it on film as it is in person. But his whole thing is about deconstructing everything because it's not really a magic show. It's about, that's why it's called In and of Itself. It's like, what is this?
Right.
It's what it is. And he walks on stage and the first thing he does is he says, I am here and you see me. And there's a light pointing at me. And that light is bright enough to, fill this whole room. But someone got up on a really tall ladder and put it right there to make sure that it only illuminates this spot on this stage. And he's just breaking the fourth wall from the get-go.
Yeah.
And that's just sets the tone for the rest of the show. And it's the most magical experience I've ever had. Because then all the magic kind of bled into the audience. And it was incredible.
Dude.
Probably going to watch it tonight. I'm probably going to watch it tonight.
I'm probably going to watch it with you.
Yeah, we should do a live viewing.
I'd be down.
No, okay. We're not going to watch it. We're not going to watch it tonight. This is going to be the follow-up episode. We're going to do a live viewing of it if we can find out copyright wise, if that's okay.
Oh.
Because
it's for critique purposes.
It is. It's for critique purposes.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
We can react and then people at home can watch it and then have us reacting on the side. There
you go. That'll be good. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So Darren Brown stuff, I found, it was probably like 2 years ago. I saw his stuff and I was like, that's next level or top level. Like it combines so much. And even as a Christian, faith is all of me, but watching that is somehow, even though he doesn't mean it to, it's like, it confirms your faith in some like visceral, fundamental way. It's like when I first read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, like that book solidified me at a time in my life when I needed to become a man of faith. And Ayn Rand would have never wanted somebody reading her book to become a man of faith or a person of faith. But
it did it.
But it did it undeniably, unwaveringly, it solidified something. I remember where I was when I read it. I remember the thoughts, and Darren Brown's stuff does the same thing. Like you watch it and it just solidifies something more than what is happening there. I don't know if that's saying it right, but
it makes perfect sense.
Kevin, you're back now. Are you back? Are they asleep?
I think so.
Okay. So you had stuff. Do you want to follow up? Do you want to ask anything? Because this could go.
Oh, I have another hour of questions. We can't do that right now, though.
Yeah, we can.
We have to have him back on.
Yeah, I suppose, because you have to work tomorrow. Anything right now?
No.
Okay. So why don't you, we did BerniniMagic.com, right? They can come find your stuff there. You have a national tour that you're working on.
Yep.
You have a special that is recorded and is not released yet, right? Like, are you going to release that like for purchase?
I don't know because I'm still doing a lot of that material.
Okay.
I think I'm going to wait until I'm done performing it.
So I guess anybody watching, and we have 200 viewers. That's it. 200 people will see this.
That's a lot. That's more people that are going to show up to my Philadelphia show. That's by like 20 times as many people as are going to show up to my Philadelphia show.
So anybody watching, if you want to see the stuff he does, I guess you're going to have to book him. I guess you're going to have to get in touch with him. Contact at BerniniMagic.com.
Or if it's easier to remember, you can also go to CatholicMagician.com because I have that URL. Because, like I said, I think I'm the only one.
Yeah. I told him earlier, like, man, if this was like 6 years earlier, I'd be.
You might have joined him.
I would have. Well, I told him it'd be cool to do a show where you combine like a speaker who has a set like talk or whatever with a magician who's doing something like woven in. But that's never.
We just
what if like
the Catholic Penn and Teller?
Catholic Penn and Teller, like
because they're always No, but they're always like Penn and Teller are always like, you got Penn talking and Teller doing the magic, and they're always like bashing on religion and they hate religion. And like, we'll just do the same thing, but the other way.
The opposite way.
Which can we talk about how like the whole thing with Penn and Teller is they are bashing religion, but the whole show, but they're so good at what they do that I'm not bothered by it. I mean, obviously I'm bothered by it to some degree, but I'm just like, I listen anyway. I'm immersed in the experience. Why can't we do that with the gospel? Why can't we do the gospel, share the gospel with magic that is so freaking good that even an atheist will be like, yeah, like this guy's preaching at me, but I don't care because the magic is so freaking good. And then he's receptive to it because that's what Penn and Teller do.
Yeah,
and it works
in the opposite direction.
That's your job. That's your job for the next 20 years, Giancarlo, is to get that good.
That's what you're called to. Like, I don't know if you've seen that clip of Penn.
I'm not even kidding.
Go ahead, go.
No, that's your job. Like, what? Like right now, you just need to get that good all the time.
It's tall order, but yes, I will try, Kevin, for you.
It's not that 12 in order.
It's
not that 12 in order. Penn was not a good magician. He was just a showman.
Yeah.
Teller was the magician. Penn was the theatrics, the juggler, all that stuff. They performed at Renaissance festivals. That's what they did before they got big. Like they just didn't quit. That's all you have to do is not quit.
Well, and you're kind of doing the opposite. Like you've gone full steam into not quitting. You've done the opposite of just like booking major gigs around the country. But I was going to ask, did you ever see that clip years ago when Penn got off from a performance and he did a live feed when that guy had given him a Bible?
Yep.
That impacted me so big. And actually it's in an upcoming article we're doing. And then one of my posts and Kevin and I are actually going to talk about evangelism soon because he gets kind of just handed a Bible from a really sincere guy, and it's in the moment, it's raw, the recording is, and Penn Jillette's just like trying to wrestle with, and he keeps stopping and he keeps saying like, and I know the guy is wrong, and I know there is no God, but this guy was a good man. And at one point he says, how much do you have to hate a person if you believe that they're going to hell to not proselytize?
Right.
Like, how much do you have to hate somebody to not tell them about, hell and God and everything? And I'm like, yeah, if he can see it, then why can't we? And that's kind of what you're now, granted, in your corporate show, like you're talking about in your corporate shows, that's not what you're hired for. But
but at the same time, in a corporate show, like we can talk about, I'm a huge fan of the idea that like beauty is a form of evangelization, right? We're the truth, beauty, goodness, the whole thing. I'm a big fan of like Bishop Barron Word on Fire and his whole thing on the transcendental. So like we're talking about that, but the idea that I was like, as a magic trick is an illusion presented theatrically for entertainment. Sure. And an illusion is all about discerning what's true. Theater is about presenting something in a beautiful way, and entertainment is about doing something good for someone else. And so like in that sense, magic has those three elements. And if I am intentional about making sure that in my corporate show I'm sharing truth, beauty, and goodness with people, and I'm intentionally trying to get them to see truth, beauty, and goodness in them, then I'm hoping that it'll stir something in their soul to be more receptive to the Holy Spirit whenever that moment comes in their lives. But at least they're now open to experience. They might be, because of a magic show, more open to an experience of the true, beautiful, and the good in the future. And that's the most I can hope for in a corporate environment. But it's more than, it's substantial, I think.
Well, it's more than most magicians would be hoping for that crowd.
Right.
Your intent behind all of it is to somehow draw them, deeper and beyond. Okay. So I would say, since we're definitely going to have you on just soon and again, granted, if you say yes, but I would say, go ahead.
No, we got to watch it in and of itself and then come back and talk about it. We might as well record it and put it out there.
We'll do that.
Yes.
We will definitely do that. So I would say for now then, would you be able to close the show either with one or two of your preferred, I guess, what would be good for closing out something like this? Yeah.
Well, let's do one thing that I've actually kind of been saving for. I think Kevin might enjoy this. You might have seen this before. But maybe yeah.
Here we go.
And this is the deck of cards. It's been here the whole time. It's got a little rubber band around it. Name. Name a. I'm trying to figure out how to get you to pick it because I want it to be random. If I say name a card, you're gonna say Ace of Spades or Ace. Like people have cards that they always pick.
Okay.
Here's what we'll do. I'll go through and you just stop me. But I don't want this to be like a thing where you say, oh, he didn't stop exactly where I told him to stop. So as I go through the cards, I want you to actually make sure that I stop exactly where you tell me.
Stop.
Okay. Are you happy exactly here? Do you want me to go through a couple more? A couple less?
Couple less.
Couple less. So you let me know, like,
Four less cards.
So it's 1,
Four
2,
fewer. Excuse me. Proper English.
3, 4. So right
Perfect.
there.
Yep.
Okay. Are you happy with this card right here?
I am.
Okay. So look, that is a 6 of clubs. You're happy with this?
Sweet. It feels arbitrary.
Feels arbitrary and random. It's not like Ace of Spades or Queen of Hearts or whatever the most commonly named card.
Or the 7 of clubs, whatever Penn always likes.
Right. Or the 3 of clubs, I think. Yeah. If I do this is sleight of hand, Kevin. I know, like this motion right here. There's about 3 slides I just did to get your card at the 6 of clubs to come to the top of the deck. And that's sleight of hand. Now let me show you this. This is illusion. If I do that, it looks like I cut the deck and put your 6 of clubs in the middle. And really, I didn't cut the deck. Your 6 of clubs is still on top.
Yes.
So we're going to do this a little more carefully. I'm going to do this as carefully as I can. And cut the cards. This is as fairly as I can. There is your 6 of clubs. You see it.
Yep.
I'm going to place it down right there. Again, this is your 6 of clubs being placed down right here.
No.
So one more thing, Kevin. I'm going to cut the cards for real this time. So we're actually going to cut the cards a couple of times. Now, obviously, if we do this correctly, and the cards are genuinely shuffled, then your card should not be on top. That's not your card. But go ahead and just name a number between 1 and 52.
4?
The number 4. Are you sure? Or is that your final answer? The number 4. Here's the thing. You can change your mind right now.
Okay.
And if you do, for the rest of your life, you're going to wonder what would have happened if you had kept the number 4. Or you can say 4 and wish you hadn't.
All right. This is the best. 5.
The number 5.
Yep.
From here or from here?
No way, dude.
Do it.
From your left.
This is my left.
Yep. From
5
there.
here.
5 from there.
That's 1. That's 2. 3, 4, 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. Do we agree that this is the 5th card from right here?
Agreed.
Kevin.
Yeah! No way, dude. Oh, that was the best.
Right.
That was the best. Oh
Good
my
job, man.
gosh. That was so good. I only have a little bit left. You have to give us a toast, dude.
Oh, yep.
Oh, I have to do a toast.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so let the audience know, and Kevin and I, that this is not goodbye.
Wait, you guys. I could have stuck with 4.
Yep. You could have gone on either end. Okay.
I love magic so much.
So glad.
Oh, that was just phenomenal. How long have you been doing that trick?
Couple of years now. This is one of my new favorites. I wish I could do. I'm doing a version of it at the stage show. It's just it doesn't work as well because you can't see the cards from like in the giant stage. But
Yeah. So I have to ask, that kind of trick, does that incorporate things that you could not have done 10 years ago because there are too many advanced techniques, or is it just something you just didn't know about? And
Answer carefully.
Answer carefully. You're the magician here. Answer the way you can.
This is something that I could never have figured out 10 years ago. And yet I knew the secret 10 years ago.
Way to go. That's
so
a
good.
Great response.
So good.
Okay. So knowing that there's another one coming. Hey, do you have any more tricks you want to do? Or is that good for you?
That was it. We just did any card at any number. Come on.
Come on. It's
how do you top that?
We just did any card, any number from any side.
Yeah.
From any side.
Live.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so good.
Okay.
Through a screen.
With the knowledge that actually that was something I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Pause. During COVID, you had to start to do this kind of thing a lot, correct?
Yeah.
Would you say that the majority of it, did you do a ton of this stuff?
It was stuff like this. But I was glad. There's a cool thing about COVID is I could do a show for 200 people and do any card at any number, which I can't do in an audience.
Right.
I also be more creative. There are some tricks that are more impressive if you do it over Zoom than if you do it in person.
Yeah.
Because if I make something appear on the other side of the stage, that's cool. If I make something appear in your house, that's insane.
Yeah. It's impossible, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the goal. And so part of it was just realizing like not how do I make a magic show on Zoom try to be as good as live, but how do I use the live aspects of it to do stuff that you could never do in an in-person show?
That's awesome.
Dude.
Do you have any of your live shows recorded?
I don't like to record a lot. I mean, I do have them recorded, but I don't post them because magic is all about the element of surprise.
Sure.
And, I don't want any, especially people who are like trying to hire me. Like I don't want them to look up a show and then have everything spoiled.
Sure.
You know?
Yep. That makes sense.
All the secrets and surprises.
All right. So with the knowledge that you'll be on again and we'll have amazing talks, what do you have for us as a toast?
Say, to truth, beauty, goodness, and Catholic socks.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.